This video contains content that may be confronting.
Now, it is a topic that is central to Sonia Orchard's new book. It's entitled Groomed, in which she details her own experience as a teenage schoolgirl and how years later she navigated the legal system to try to gain justice. Sonia, welcome to Weekend Breakfast.
Hi, lovely to be here.
Congratulations on the book.
Thank you. Thank you.
Starting right from the very beginning, you were underage when this happened to you, and I want to read you a quote from your book. You said, "I believed that I had been in a romantic relationship. I know of many young girls and boys who would also be in that time where they're underage and then they feel they're in love with this particular person because this older person has given them all the time and attention as well." How do you speak to young people about making that delineation between love and infatuation?
Look, I don't know if infatuation is always the issue. I think when we get confused between love and abuse and exploitation, that's the real issue. For me, I didn't even realise that I had been in an abusive relationship until about 10 years ago. I had always framed it as a regular relationship. And it was only a few years ago when I was in the justice system that I then realised that I had been groomed. And that was when things started to make sense for me and I could actually kind of put it all together. But it's very, very difficult to know at the time because grooming is emotional manipulation. It's like you're being conned. So it's very difficult to see it at the time. It's something that we need to learn more about. People need to educate themselves about, and it's something that parents and teachers and others need to understand so that they can identify it when they see it.
Well, the thing too is that, there will be a lot of parents who have teenage girls. You have teenage daughters as well. Yeah. How do you speak to them about this? How do you tell them you need to be aware of this?
Yeah, look, I think there are a lot of great conversations about consent at the moment, and that's brilliant. I don't think we're talking enough about power in relationships, and that's something that people need to really educate themselves about because power can really confuse consent. And if there's a really big power imbalance in a relationship, then it's really easy to be manipulated into consenting to things that your body is actually not consenting to, but you're consenting to. Yeah. And it's often much later that you sort of realise these things. So I think we can educate young people, but we also need to, as adults and as a community, we need to recognise that teenagers are children and we need to talk to them. As parents, we need to give them love and attention and, keep the communication channels open and be there so that if they are confused, that they've got someone to talk to. And grooming actually can happen at any age, I should say. It's just that children are incredibly vulnerable, so we do hear about it more with children.
You, much later, years later, when you realised that you had been groomed, you tried to navigate the legal system to try to bring some sort of justice, of course.
Yeah.
But you found that very difficult. And just reading your book, I felt quite traumatised just going through your experience as well. And, many victims of sexual abuse have often described the courtroom process as re-traumatising as well. Is there any way that we can actually make sure the legal system, is able to deliver a fair and just process, but at the same time be empathetic?
You're talking about fair and just and empathetic as if they're mutually exclusive. And well, look, at the moment we actually don't have a fair and just system or an empathetic system, so it's not like they're stepping on each other's toes at the moment. Only less than 1% of sex crimes result in a conviction, so it's certainly not just and fair. And as you said, most people who go through the legal system for sex crimes say that it's re-traumatising. A lot of them say it's more traumatising than the actual sexual assault. So it's not empathetic. And I don't understand why being empathetic needs to undermine justice. Victims just want their rights respected. They want to have agency. They want to not have a system that's stacked against them. And those things don't undermine justice at all. If you think about as a parent, you try and be empathetic and just, and you'd never sort of suggest that those two things are in conflict with each other.
Yeah, because we had a Child Abuse Royal Commission, right, or the better part of 10 years ago, and it made all these recommendations about the justice system then. I think 2017 it wrapped up. 8 years down the track, it sounds like you're saying a lot hasn't really changed when it comes to the judicial system at all. Yeah,
exactly. And look, I think the Royal Commission was an absolute game changer. 25% of Australians were sexually abused in childhood. So it's massive, and we weren't really talking about it before the Royal Commission. So it's been fantastic. But I do feel like we've just been tinkering around the edges of change. I mean, we have things like it's different state to state, but in Victoria we've got social workers in the court systems, things like that. It's great. There's a support dog, Lucy the lab, and it's wonderful to have a support dog in there. But why are we putting really traumatised people in a situation which is re-traumatising them and then saying, here's a dog to pat? Why are we outsourcing kindness to dogs? Why can't humans just do better and just don't traumatise them in the first place? So, look, we do have a really good opportunity for change at the moment because the Australian Law Reform Commission has just handed in a report to the Attorney General with suggested justice reforms for sex crimes. And he's presiding over that at the moment, and that's going to be released. Hopefully there are some sweeping changes because it does need a complete overhaul. I've actually sent my book to the Attorney General and asked him if I can come in and speak to him. So, Mark Dreyfus, if you're listening, I'd love to chat. But yeah, look, I think, imagine if the hospital system was so bad that people didn't go to hospital and that people said that going to the hospital made them sicker. I mean, we wouldn't be okay with that.
No. Great analogy there. Sonia Orchard, congratulations on the book. It's very insightful. And thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us.
Thanks so much. Pleasure.
And if this story has raised any issues for you, you can always get help by calling the National Sexual Assault and Family Violence Counselling Helpline on 1-800-RESPECT, which is 1-800-737-732. And Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander viewers can always access crisis support through 13 YARN. That's 139276.